are the Cunningham family, and we are doing a video on
Books
that we read, or in my case, I think I listened to all of these books.
Yeah, I listened to like one of the 2 books that I read this year. Mostly he's the one doing this because
So, like,
he's the
on
one
the-
who's like really getting into reading or like listening to books all of a sudden. I'm trying to get more into it.
I really want to learn to like actually read, but there's like 32 letters or something like that. It's like pretty hard. So mostly we listen to books, but we do want to get into to reading. So yeah, I think all these are audiobooks.
It's nice when you work a lot to just like
Yes.
listen to it.
Yes.
So anyway, we're going to share today some of the books that mostly he has read because we've read some really good books this year, and we thought that that might be a really good video to just kind of share some books if you happen to be looking for some books. I saw this video last year and it was like really interesting, so I want to make my own version of it.
Yeah, and it's super good to share books because like a bunch of these, I mean, if I didn't hear about them from someone, she heard about them from someone.
Yeah.
It's like that's how you hear about books. So
Yeah.
that's what we got.
So hopefully this can be a really good resource for you. Definitely in the comments down below, let me know like what books you're reading right now that you would recommend
yes.
that we add to our list, because we're always looking for good books.
Yes. So the first book that I had written down, I think I listened to this one probably first in the year, and this book was so influential in my life that when I went through my calendar and I was like, oh my gosh, I read that this year, it kind of blew my mind because it changed so much that it's one of those things that like I thought it was just a part of me for years.
It's cool when you can find a book that like literally changes you. Like
Well,
kind
like
of changed
all
your
of
life.
these. So I didn't show you my system, but like if you go through, I have my iPad right here. If you go through like one flower, it's so bad because like one flower is supposed to mean like it dramatically impacted me. 3 flowers, it changed my life. But like this one needs at least 3 flowers, and then this one was just like flower, 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 flower.
like a line
It's
of
hard.
flower
And then like the
emojis.
ones that don't have flowers, like they impacted me too, but I had to have some books to actually talk about. So in any case, the first book that I wanted to mention is the classic by Dale Carnegie, and that is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
That's how you spell Carnegie? I always thought it was Carnage.
That is how I spelled Carnegie. I
Oh,
think
okay.
that's how you spell Carnegie, but anyway, the one thing, the biggest thing that I personally think of when I think of this book,
His big takeaway.
my big takeaway, would be that humans are not creatures of logic, but of emotion, pride, and vanity. I'm serious, because
Huh.
like in my type A brain, like I'll deal with people and I'll just be like,
Why? That is so dumb. Like, why would you do that?
and I do dumb things too. And it helps me realize, it enlightened me to the fact that it's because we don't operate under logic most of the time. And that's super, super cool. Totally changed the way I deal with people in a good way. All right, the next one, also phenomenal.
This is one that I told you about, I believe.
Yes, this is one you started
And I
with.
still haven't even read it. I think I read the first chapter on, well, I like listened to the first chapter.
It's pretty hard to listen to books, you know. I mean, it's hard to, you know, like,
It's hard to be able to
oh,
focus.
that's my ears.
It's hard to be able to focus when you have a little toddler
Gotcha.
doing toddler things.
I work with tradesmen. Anyway, okay, so Atomic Habits by James Clear. So it's a habits book, and what I think about when I think of this is a quote that I heard from Jeremy Roloff. I think he said he didn't know where it came from, but in any case, it goes like this. It is the way we spend our days is the way we spend our lives. And habits shape our disciplines, they shape our days. Okay, so basically habits shape our lives. And this book, it's just super practical for how to change your habits. And the one thing that I think of as the biggest thing from that book would be to just attach a new habit, to an existing habit.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple, but it is unbelievably effective. And I've implemented that just in little things and more over time. So absolutely, absolutely love that. This one,
Another one I told you about.
yes. So this is the one thing. Now, if you can't tell by the way I've taken my one thing from each of these other books, this one has impacted the way I think. It almost seems like oversimplified, but it's not. It's so good. So the one thing that I take away from this book, he says it like, I don't know, 50 times in the book, and then I listen to a podcast and he said it a bunch of times. It's like his one thing. What's the one thing such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary? So powerful. So good. If you can boil it down, take your to-do list or whatever and just focus on one thing. I try to do that at work every day that I'm there. I try to do it at home. It's amazing. Super empowering.
Jeremy Roloff, he will never see this, but thank you so much.
John Eldridge. I had no idea what he was. I was listening to a podcast. I think Audrey was out that day. It was just Jeremy and John, but he had him on. And when Jeremy told me that his book, Wild at Heart, had radically changed his life. I made a mental note, maybe even like a physical note on my phone. I got to listen to this book. I got to read this book. And eventually I did. And oh my goodness. So
I'm about halfway through that. You can be proud of me. I'm listening to this book. I'm halfway through.
yeah, very promptly.
I've
She's
been
doing
listening
good.
to it for like a
She's
month.
doing good.
But
But anyway, so this one, my one thing that I boiled it down to is I have a new understanding of the nature of God and my nature in turn. Kind of a broad one thing. It is so good. Like I almost couldn't bottle it down. It's just like radically
it's just like
wonderful.
read the book.
It's really, really, really good. So thank you, John.
Ah!
This is what I did this morning. I was just like, every book is so good. Okay.
Just like remembering them all.
Yes, and then just like they hit me over again. The next two books, they're written by the same guys. They're a couple of Navy SEALs. They were in the war in Ramadi, Iraq, and they came back and they ended up starting a business. And so they coached businesses and stuff, and they taught leadership principles that they learned over in Iraq, killing people and trying not to get killed. Oh, man. So it's super, 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 super good. What they do is they have 3 parts in each book. Each part has 4 chapters, okay? And in each chapter, they tell you a story from while they were over in Iraq or while they were in training or any different thing. And they pull out one specific principle from that story. And then they apply that principle to business. And, oh my goodness, I feel like there's no more effective way to learn leadership than in that kind of situation because the stakes are about as high as they get. You don't really...
You lead or they die.
Yeah, you lead or you die, and you lead well or you get yourself and others killed, or you can make America look bad and get a civilian killed or something, which would be just a disaster as far as the media and all that. Unbelievably good. And I'd say the one thing that I took away from that, the biggest thing, is actually the thing for which the book is named, and that is extreme ownership, which basically states that whatever happens underneath you in the chain of command, anything your subordinates do, or like if you're a business owner, your employees, or if you're like in a position where you're leading other guys in the trade or whatever, like anything your apprentices do, it's your fault. Like if something goes wrong, it is your fault. You have to take ownership. You have to take responsibility. And you have to listen to the book because there's a lot that goes into it and you really see the truth of that principle. You could kind of take that the wrong way, but when you understand it for what it really is, it is absolutely awesome. Super, super good. I've applied that principle at work and at home, and I've seen it just absolutely super fruitful. It's done tons of good. So I listened to that book in like a day and a half, I think it was, and it's like a 10-hour book. So it's quite a bit of listening. And then I almost immediately got the next one. I was like, I've got an Audible credit and I know where it's going. The next one by the same guys, written the same way, got the 3 parts, 4 chapters per part, story, principle, application to business. And it is called The Dichotomy of Leadership. This book, this is the one that I have, you can see I have like 1 billion flowers by it because it opened my mind. This one I gotta tell like a little bit of story. I don't think a lot of people necessarily understand what a dichotomy is. Do you know what a dichotomy is? We talked about it, but like, do you really understand it now?
Sort of. I mean, you've mentioned it a lot, but you do just talk a lot.
I do talk a lot. All right, so I've always had this concept, kind of subconsciously, kind of consciously, that life is just like a balancing act. You have to take either side of the extremes or whatever, and you have to pull them together and figure out the balance all the time. But that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes it is, but not usually. Normally what you have is you have to discern between 2 extremes, okay? That's kind of a dichotomy. I'll give you a little example. So upstairs, we've got William's room, and he's got a changing table where we change his diaper. Once we're done changing his diaper, I always tell him to jump off of the crib onto the bed. Now, a couple times he has tried just kind of stepping off and like falling onto the bed, but he always ends up pretty much biffing it and like landing on his face. I hold his hand or whatever so he doesn't get hurt, but it's totally different than when he actually jumps. So I always tell him it's fun because like he'll repeat it and he's like, don't fall, jump. Like, don't fall, William, jump. And he'll jump and he'll land and it sticks the landing and it's super good. So we went to a trampoline park for my birthday. We could jump around, watch the kid play. It was tons of fun, whatever. And so it was kind of funny because while we were there, I was hearing in my own mind the words that I say to William. That was, don't fall, jump. Basically meaning like, if you're gonna do something, do it 100%. All out, give it everything you got. If you're gonna jump over some stupid block or do a flip or whatever, don't go halfway, just dive into it. That's one side of our dichotomy. The other side is the fact that I have a mortgage. I have a wife and a child who live within the walls of that mortgage element. I have responsibilities. So there's some situations where you need to go 100%. You're going to do this and you're going to give it everything you have. If you break yourself, you're going to break yourself hard because you're going for it. But then there's other situations where you go, this is stupid. I'm not going to do this. This is too risky. And that's not about finding the balance. That's not it at all. It's a dichotomy. So you have to choose, okay, which is right in this situation. And reading this book, it's called The Dichotomy of Leadership, but my one big thing is discovering the dichotomy of all things. Almost everything, it's a dichotomy between this and this and this, and it's changed the way I think. I reference this literally every single day. There are multiple decisions where I'm like, okay, which extreme, what do I do here? Super powerful. Anyway, I think that is my ridiculously emotional ranting. I can't talk about books and not just like, oh.
I'm gonna be super like because I don't have that much energy.
It's okay, that's good. People generally like those better anyways.
So I'm working on reading more, and I did read a couple of those. But the 2 books that like I read that he didn't read, I'm actually only halfway through this one. I don't own the physical copy. I got from the library of the other one.
Oh.
But I read Oh Crap, Potty Training, and then Oh Crap, I Have a Toddler by the same author. And if you have like a toddler or kids, or you're planning on having like a toddler or kids at some point, like they're very, very good because it's the potty training one basically just is like how to potty train. So that was not like that important. But the other one that she had was kind of like,
That's pretty important.
I know, but not like in your whole entire life. It's like for a month it's really important.
Oh,
or,
I gotcha.
you know,
I gotcha.
whatever. But the other book was just like, this is how toddlers think. This is why they're so darn weird. And like, it was just really, really good. One of those books that like I can reference in my mind when I'm having one of those days and I'm just like,
So, as a bystander, tell me a little bit about her. Why Jackie Glowacki? That's her name. You can see it. Right? So, why Jackie Glowacki? Hasn't she worked with like thousands of parents?
yeah,
and stuff like
she's
that? Pretty
a,
sharp.
I don't actually know for sure, but it sounds like she's a potty training guru, which I don't know what that is. But she potty trains kids for people and has like potty training courses and stuff like that. So she's worked with like thousands upon thousands of kids for like multiple months, like helping them potty train when parents are like getting frustrated to the point that they like have to go like get help.
That's thousands upon thousands of months. That's a lot of years. How old is this one?
Not one kid at a time.
No, I was just being a turd.
Oh.
Just doing some quick math. I'm like, this woman's like 300 years old.
So she's seen all the different kind of like parenting philosophies that like parents have, like the parents who are super duper authoritative and the ones who are super lax, and then the ones who have a good harmony in the middle and stuff like that. So her book, Oh Crap, I Have a Toddler, honestly, like reading it, I kept like expecting to get to a chapter and I was like,
I extremely disagree. That's terrible advice.
or whatever, but like literally everything I completely agreed with. And the first half of the book is about like the parents and like mindsets you should have and the way that you should think and blah 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 about the parent side of things. And then the second half is about the child and like, you know, if your child's throwing a fit, like figure out why. Like sometimes, yeah, the kid, you know, needs to be disciplined or something, but most of the time as a parent you did something like gave your kid too much sugar or the kid didn't get a good night's sleep or whatever. So she has a full chapter on, you know, figuring out how much sleep your child needs.
Literally the principle of extreme ownership. Like realizing that what my child is doing is probably because of what I did.
Yeah, she has a whole chapter on why kids need what she calls, I believe it was rough play. They need to be outside, they need to tumble around and just attack each other and not have like structured play that we as parents like enjoy, like calm down, okay, go play with your puzzle or whatever. Like no, they need to get out there with another little boy and like wrestle till they have a bloody nose, because that literally does things in their brain that will help them for the rest of their lives. So it was a really, really good book. Now, like when something happens or when I'm getting really frustrated, I can like think back and refer to that book and be like, okay, she said to just calm down, and then everything always works out.
It's gotta be good too, because like a lot of that stuff you already know it or whatever, but some of it you wonder if you think you know it or is it really true, but then you read that and like, okay, this is probably pretty legit.
Yeah.
So that's good.
And, you know, as someone who's dealt with lots and lots of toddlers, like she was able to just say like, I've seen, like, I can tell you this does not work out, don't do that, or you know, whatever. So yeah, that's my 2 cents of the 2 books that I really recommend.
Yeah, we're working on getting better about reading. Audible is wonderful. It is
Mhm.
absolutely one of the greatest things in the world. We are trying to actually consume some more paper books because that's awesome too. I mean, like paper is it's a cool thing.
It just takes your actual like focus. You can't like multitask,
Yeah,
which sometimes it's really hard to find enough time to do that.
it is. Especially like I work 10 hours a day. I got to drive over there, drive back. You got to shower and get cleaned up. Like I'm not going to say we don't have time. I hate when people say that, but we're trying to prioritize our time for this, and then I'm
Sometimes
tired
books
at night and
just
I'll fall
fall
asleep while
into-
reading, and it's.
Books aren't as high a priority sometimes.
But thank God for Audible and podcasting.
Goodreads is an app that I found last year that I really like enjoy because you can literally read the first chapter of a book on there,
Oh,
and you can
right,
make
right.
like lists of all the books that you want. You can read like all the reviews, and it's all like within the same app. So I've been really enjoying.
I need to dive back into that and do that more because I'm just usually like I hear a reference or something, but that was super good.
Yeah, it's one of those apps that I got and I was super into it, and then I forgot about it, and I don't even think it's on my phone anymore. But I should get it back out and look at the list that I had because I probably had a lot of books on that list that I wanted to read that I forgot about. So, yeah. Anyway, let us know down below in the comments if you have a book that you enjoyed recently, or if there's a book that you're interested in that we mentioned. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye!
Later.